Welcome back, or welcome if you're checking out part 2 first. We're in the middle of dissecting a few ancient Egyptian themed cartoons, discovering the good and the not so good.
Hello, Ivan. How are we doing today?
Pretty bad, Dr. Fraud. I'm very depressed.
Last time, we went over the 90s classic Mummies Alive, with this slick animation, color-coded mummies, and the looming fear of old age. We also checked out the animated spin-off of the Mummy movie, cleverly titled The Mummy. Love when franchises do that. Both celebrate Egyptian culture and mythology in their own way, leading to stuff like this. Today we're taking on the second half of the cartoons, starting with one that has this style.
As the old saying goes, if you plant rocks, you will grow pyramids.
I'm sorry. What?
Why don't you sit down, because things are about to get strange.
All right, but these educational programs bore me to death.
Babysitting has come in many different forms for centuries. Nursemaids of medieval times, mammies of the American South, the Babysitter Club books. Wanting to get someone else to raise and take care of your kids is inherently human. It's only natural.
Nature can be beautiful.
So it makes perfect sense to throw this dynamic into an ancient Egyptian setting. The Bible did. Mummy Nanny is the strangest cartoon thus far.
As part of Rasta Week, Culture Shock is pleased to have as our guest the author of a new island thriller, Julius Elsewhere.
That's one cool hairdo.
There's Julius! I always knew he'd become famous. Hopefully his new book, Jam in Jamaica, will be less dangerous than the last one.
Airing in 2001, this series comes from the combined efforts of Germany, France, and the United States. It feels like someone randomly picked two unrelated topics out of a hat and was forced at gunpoint to make a TV show out of them. Here's how this all happens. Back in ancient Egypt, this teenage girl, Nile, whose face we're not really allowed to see, is a sorcerer in training. Teaching her magic is her uncle Ankh. And the thing is, Nile has a lot of potential, but can't really control how that potential plays out. She uses the wrong spells all the time, like this. Also, this guy's chin is crazy from a profile shot. Actually, a lot of the characters in this show have insane chins. What an interesting stylistic choice. Anyway, when practicing, Nile accidentally steals the shadow of one of her grandfather's friends, Droop, another man rocking a crimson chin. Droop used to have this motto, but after something so sacred is taken from him, we never see him look on the bright side again.
When things look bad, just act glad.
There's few things that will stay with you as consistently as a shadow. Even when you're dead, it's still by your side. That's commitment. Droop attempts to get it back, only for Nile to scurry away from him.
My shadow! Where's my shadow?
I don't know. It's a hot day. Maybe it went to look for some shade.
What do you...
She ends up in a secret tomb, finds a treasure map on the wall, but her magical potential gets the better of her once again. The map fuses to her bandages, and the next thing she knows, she's imprisoned in a sarcophagus for thousands of years.
When it wanes, we must rest in our sarcophagi to renew it.
Kinda like my mom's cell phone.
In the present, we have these two kids, Samantha and Alex, who are frankly pretty boring personality-wise. Who would've fucking guessed? All the charisma in this household comes from the parents. Mr. and Mrs. Elsewhere. I assume they're called that because they're often not mentally present in their child's lives, often kind of in their own world.
I scratch my armpit.
Their mom is a quirky inventor and scientist who creates things like this super plexiglass windshield, and she kills rats by accident.
Who am I going to experiment on now?
I also assume she installed the doorbell that has the Jetsons theme.
Is your name Julius?
No.
Why is this here? Well, their dad is a famous author who gets so into his 3 out of 10 fiction novels that he dresses up to match the genre of the book he's working on. And there's a different costume for every single episode.
Squad Dorothy, drive to first path on left. I know shortcut to Gorge of 3 Valleys.
What an interesting route Sitting Bull has chosen for us.
Daddy's new book, Not Quite the Last of the Mohicans, goes perfect with our vacation.
Because these parents are so busy, they need a nanny. Someone's gotta raise these kids. So a telegram comes for the family letting them know the new nanny is going to be arriving. Did I just say telegram?
Here, an urgent telegram for your dad.
But if he can write, he can read, so send him a telegram.
Yes, express telegram. What's the message? Is kidnap spelled with 1 P or 2?
What year is it? Why does this show look like this? Why does it sound like this too? Am I having a stroke?
I guess this wasn't supposed to get wet. It doesn't seem to be working anymore. It still had bugs in it anyway. I'll just invent something else.
Parents need some extra hands around the house, but not just any hands. The wrinkly, experienced touch of this mean English woman, who is known globally for strict rules and probably still uses violence when she sees a kid riding left-handed. This woman is so renowned that people come to her on a plane when searching for a caregiver on board, like that's a thing.
Excuse me? I heard we had a nanny on board with us.
Yes, indeed.
This is Kevin. He's traveling alone. Would you watch him until we land?
But of course, I love children.
The family goes to pick up the nanny at the airport, but they're not the only ones there. There's this evil guy, Mr. Big. Get it? Cause he's small.
Name, age, and occupation.
Mr. Big, 53, fraudulent antique dealer, thief, and cunning liar. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to finish a kidnapping.
He shows up with his 2 henchmen who have intel that the wraps on the mummy hold directions to an untouched treasure, which this animation showed off pretty well. See, this show gets at least one compliment. The plan is to hit a lick, scoop up the mummy, and jet. All the participants show up, but the kids find the mummy first. So after a rather lengthy stint in a coffin, Niall is freaked out by how much time has passed. He's also 5,000 years older, yet still with the mind of a 15-year-old, so that's kind of disorienting. They see the real nanny and decide, nah, let's go with the other ancient chick. So they hoodwink their parents into bringing Niall as their new caregiver, making this lady walk out nude in the airport because they steal her clothes.
Officers, my possessions have been stolen!
You're under arrest.
Oh, and Uncle Ankh has been trying to figure out how to get Niall back to the right time, because, you know, trapped in a coffin and all that. This is what he comes up with.
The ancestors say that by using time portals, it is possible to travel to the future. To open a time portal, someone from the future must say the name of the mighty immortal pharaoh. Why don't you sit down?
However, the probability that someone from the future where Niall is will say that name is practically 0.
Oh, yeah.
So when anyone in the vicinity of the mummy says that, a portal opens up between the timelines, allowing them to temporarily walk around the modern day. Sometimes this also sends people to ancient times. It's weird. It doesn't make sense. It's inconsistent too, because turns out it has nothing to do with the proximity to Niall. It's just whenever anyone says it and it's convenient for the writers. Granted, it is hard to come up with a good story when there's a gun to your head, so this is the best they could have gotten. These two end up in the airport, but don't capitalize on their time there before being swept back to the past by the utterance of,
Why don't you sit down?
So the episodes usually revolve around Niall taking care of the kids and dealing with life in this totally new environment, while also stopping the plans of Mr. Big, who doesn't realize Niall is the mummy he's been searching for. I guess the parents don't realize she's the Walking Dead either though. Everyone is in denial about Niall. But Mr. Big does suspect the family knows something about the whereabouts of the mummy. Hence, multiple kidnapping attempts, spying, and break-ins. Which is just another day in Philadelphia, really. This is what you deal with on the regular. We get Uncle Ankh showing up in most episodes, trying to bring back Niall to the right time, or just to hang out.
Get a grip, old man. It's just a stupid little play.
Sometimes he just comes over and he's like, hey, I'm in the present now. What's going on? Oh, a play about Egyptians? And I don't know what theater is? Here we go. We're doing that now. And while that's going on, Droop just wants his shadow back. And for some reason, Niall won't give it to him. She just won't do it. She does not want to do it.
Hey, what do you think Niall's up to?
I have no idea, but we shouldn't leave her alone or this could turn into a catastrophe.
This cartoon is a shit show, and we didn't even get to the recurring cop characters.
Mm-hmm. You say a nudist with a lot of bread broke into your house? Oh, Anubis, the god of the dead.
Because what's an ancient Egyptian cartoon without law enforcement? And oh my god, why did they give him massive lips? This is racist, right?
He's trying to kidnap me, help! That big fat guy!
Hello?
I don't believe you, little girl.
This man must be your father. You look exactly alike.
This is also a crazy caricature from this show.
Uncle Ankh!
Niall, my niece.
Give me my shadow back.
I see you made a secret pact with this Egyptian gang. Well, we have a saying in Shanghai. Confucius say, beat their noses in. Yeah!
I'm just baffled by the decisions that were made when making this program and who greenlit it. No one else in the goddamn show looks like this cop character. The North Africans of Egypt don't even have these big of lips. Anyway, they're incompetent too. Everyone in the show is.
This is going in my report. Hello, police? This is the police.
Go ahead, police. This is the police.
With the kids in the Nanny seeming to be the only ones with working brain matter. Mummies, interestingly enough, did not keep when they were mummified. It was pulled out of their faces through their nose. I am so sorry for that mental image. I'm very angry at this show that I'm now sharing facts about mummies that I've learned. Sorry, this happens. Also, side note. What is this house's interior design? Yellow and purple checkered flooring? Pink walls? Yellow ceiling? Purple floors and walls in the other room? What an odd, muted color scheme. I like it. It's uniquely grotesque. But I can't say the same for the show as a whole. I don't really like the animation or the character designs. It kind of reminds me of a slightly uglier version of the animation from a cartoon called Nick and Perry. This is a guy. Look at his spiked collar. Look at that spaced out look on the mom's face when she's sniffing chemicals. Or look, nanny clothes. Though I will say Niall is the only one dripped out, so that is the second compliment. It earned that one.
I've been invited to the Purple House where I might even get introduced to the president.
Oh, do not worry. As beauteous as you look, I'm sure he will add you to his harem, noble mistress.
The humor is also really hit or miss. The most hit the show pulls off is with the dad. This nigga doesn't really take anything seriously, except the role he is playing for the book that he is writing.
My Horace, my precious employer.
I'm too young to die. Try it with more emotion.
The episodes I saw don't make Egyptian culture or mythology the main focus of the show, but rather the fish out of water trope is the backbone of the cartoon.
Name the most important god of the Egyptian era.
Michael Jordan.
Man, you're stupid. Now you.
Michael Jordan?
Most of it is set in the modern day, with the main set being a suburban home with questionable interior design choices. But I do have to give points since it's the only show to recognize that polygamy was a part of ancient Egyptian culture.
Oh, bewitching vision! You shine brighter than Ra, the god of the sun.
I am a calm, bewitching vision, and I shine brighter than Ra.
You shall soon be my 15th most favorite wife.
I am calm and soon will be your 15th most favorite wife.
Alright, this show is definitely getting a 1.5 pyramids out of 10. Why did I spend so much time talking about this horrible media? I will never get back those days.
Oh no, why he do that to himself?
Actually, there are two, but Laura Croftosis, the Tomb Raider, stole the other one, and who knows where it is now.
And now it's time for the series I think most people are familiar with.
Look what you've done! Cleo, I did not plan for this to happen.
Oh, you actually had a plan.
Tutenstein, which aired on Discovery Kids in 2003. As you can guess by the title and by the words of Cleo here,
you're a real monster. Like Frankenstein? Yeah, you're Tutenstein.
The series was another take on what life would be like if mummies existed today. But this cartoon subverts expectations by making the mummy be a kid. It's different than the other series that have the kids be around a mummy. Niall was also a kid, but Tut has like the brain of a 10-year-old and the attitude of someone even younger.
Yeah, that'll be $1.50.
You dare demand money from the rightful ruler of the world? I am all that is. I am the one who is everything.
Yeah, and I am the one you owe money to.
The cartoon was based on a comic by Jay Stevens, who later had his work brought to life. Stevens had this really charming art style and color palette that I think the original series captures to an extent, but nothing really compares to some of the other boards and panels of his graphic work. Well, maybe another animated series Jay Stevens worked on, like The Secret Saturdays. Yeah, these two series have the same creator. I would have never guessed, but it makes sense in a way, with both of them being really strong cartoons. Can't go into my love and adoration for the Saturday family here, but Tutenstein, after rewatching it, definitely still holds up.
I deserve so much more.
Let's handle this premise first, though. A new Egyptian-themed exhibit is opening at this museum, with an excited curator named Horace struggling to hold back his glee. Not just for added revenue, but for people to see him as a success. He's kind of full of himself.
All publicity is good, as long as they spell your name right. Professor Bedwetty?
Man urinates on fellow passenger for not being allowed to smoke.
Meanwhile, we're introduced to a young employee of Horace's, our protagonist, Cleo. Her mother got Cleo the job here since she's kind of obsessed with ancient Egyptian culture. It turns out her father was an archaeologist, and also fascinated with the ancient society, but passed away, leaving his ambitions and zeal for the subject with his daughter.
Even though he's passed away, reading about the ancient gods and the legends helps me to keep in touch with him.
Cleo's so interested and educated in the culture that she knows the backstories of Egyptian gods and even hieroglyphics better than a mummy.
What's it say next, Tut?
Well, now that's a squiggle and a circle and a few dots and...
Wait a minute. Tut, shouldn't you know this stuff?
My teachers tended to get banished a lot. Occupational hazard.
Also, it's important to note that this is the only series about mummies that features a person of color in the main role.
You're a liar.
This is only kind of true. Presley has an ambiguous race and probably has some Middle Eastern heritage given his descendant status. But Cleo is clearly a POC by the way she talks, the way she looks, and I think that's a great representation for a TV show that focuses on this part of the world. Some of the characters should reflect that too.
Fast! Mom! What's with this rip thing? Not cool.
Cleo shares some of her big ideas for the exhibit and they kind of go ignored. One of those ideas concerns the placement of the Scepter of Waz. Wait a second, like, the Waz? The Scott the Waz Scepter? That thing must be priceless.
Hey y'all, Scott here, and... Whoops. I left this milk out for the past week, but I haven't opened it until now, so it's still brand new. It's probably fine.
Anyway, Cleo's suggestion to relocate the scepter to the side of the sarcophagus goes ignored, but later on she moves it herself, causing a chain reaction. A reaction that causes her cat Luxor to form a bond with the pharaoh and race to the museum. Also allows Cleo to hear him speak English.
He is not a thing, he is the pharaoh!
But the more pressing change is that now this kid mummy is revived, and stuck in the limbo between life and death. At first, Cleo was freaked out. Who wouldn't be, right? You know, very relatable. But this fear doesn't stay for long, seeing the kid as being immature, selfish, and honestly, he's better at describing his flaws than I am.
I am annoying and stubborn and spoiled. I am all that is!
I like that the show doesn't pull away from these annoying aspects of Tut, and we actually see him grow and mature during the run of the episodes, often challenged by Cleo or Luxor to be a better person. Something that wouldn't have happened in his past life as a pharaoh, where all of his whims were catered to, and he could just kill people who upset him.
Occupational hazard.
Unfortunately, with Tut revived, there's an opening in the underworld that allows a passage to the land of the living. This idea of the afterlife is something that none of the other shows really touched on, even though a big part of being mummified was to take some of your possessions to the other world with you. That's why those tombs were filled with food, knickknacks, and the body itself. We even see toys of Tut's arrive at the museum that once belonged in his tomb. And those were items that were really found in King Tut's final resting place, even though he died at the age of 19.
You learn something new every day.
There were lots of other artifacts in the tomb, like jewelry, animal statues, clothing, and a golden coffin to boot. The homie died in style. In that episode, Tut tries desperately to get back the toys that once belonged to him, since these were items that comforted him when he was alive. So of course he wants them in the afterlife.
Oh, look, a sistrum.
My shaky!
Back to the first episode, in the underworld, we meet Set, a guy with this backstory.
Thousands of years ago, he ambushed his own brother Osiris, tossed him in the Nile, and cut his body into lots of little tiny pieces.
He's gotta go to get a promotion from King of the Underworld to King of Two Worlds. Unfortunately, the portal is a little too small for him, so Set sends his minions after the scepter.
Maybe you should go on a diet, fewer carbs, more protein.
They pop up during the first fish out of water scene with Tut, where he realizes he's
not in Egypt anymore.
Seeing the buzzy streets of New York City, he's flabbergasted by the stretch of time that has passed since he kicked the bucket. But he doesn't have a lot of time to process that though, before the demons are chasing him and Cleo down the street. But Cleo's smart enough to grab a cab just in time to get them to safety. It's crazy that this cabbie doesn't look in the mirror once and see these demons running after his vehicle or even care about the rotting flesh on this kid. This is how you know they're in New York. Because everyone is unfazed by the utter insanity of the situation. They know right around the corner, World of T-shirts is threatening to choke somebody out.
I will single-handedly
unalive someone.
You're gonna be good.
It's fucking Christmas!
Or there's a rat carrying a pizza, or Babe Ruth hitting some balls. There's always something crazier happening than what you're experiencing in that city. They temporarily escape, and Cleo calls out Tut for not matching the mythos surrounding him.
I'll leave him alone, Lutz. Maybe he's not the great pharaoh we thought he was.
Now hold on to your shorts! As long as I hold the scepter of was, I rule the world!
This is kind of interesting since there wasn't really a myth about Tut concerning his prowess as a leader, because he was such a young kid when he took the throne, only being 9, which is kind of a problem with inheritance and monarchical kingdoms in an age of warring nations and unadvanced medicine. It was pretty standard to have a child take the throne at some point.
You know, you look a lot shorter than your picture. Younger, too.
Alas, my life was tragically cut short. Being pharaoh can be hazardous to your health.
Either way, Tut does not feel good about the criticism, but his fear comes before pride. Since Set sends another underworld creature after the trio, and what does Tut decide to do? Run away. Leaving Cleo to step in when she realizes that Set is going to destroy humanity if he gets the scepter. Seeing his new friend risk her life and even his loyal subject Luxor turn on him, Tut has an attitude shift and jumps in to use the magic correctly, closing the portal and sending the monsters back. And that kind of sets up the basic formula for how episodes play out. We see magic deities show up and test Tut, with Cleo often needing to be the moral compass to lead him in the right direction.
Chill, my sweet. Our fate is in the hands of the pharaoh.
Like I said.
Apparently, all of this wasn't in the comic J. Stevens created. There was a lot of fleshing out that had to be done with the story since it was going to be moving to a cartoon medium that ended up running for several seasons. And there were other issues that popped up during the creative process of the show. Stevens talks about the experience with the comics journal, saying, "That was like 7 years of development hell. A big struggle to get that made. And even though I'd work on the early designs in the series Bible, developing a silly little comic idea into a show, by the time it was in production, I was pretty much shut out of the creative process, and the character no longer looked like my character. It was hard. It was a struggle. There was a moment where I was ready to walk away from that show, just say no."
No.
What kept him on the project was talking to a friend, and coming to the conclusion that the show had 50% of the OG identity. And that was a lot for an adaptation. You could see a lot less of your character in the final product. This caused Stevens to push through, though he did end up leaving the animation industry, putting most of his work into comics moving forward. I think the show does a great job of commentating on Egyptian mythology and culture in a way that educates the audience while also building the characters. It does this so well using the younger brother dynamic between Tut and Cleo, and watching them learn to work together to solve issues.
Just go in my room and stay out of trouble. Can you do that?
I am the master of everything. I can do whatever I want to.
Then want to.
Oh, okay.
This relationship grows to be really endearing and is definitely the heart of the show. But how could we forget one of the best characters, Rosalie Rivera?
Will mayhem ensue? Will panic spread? We can only hope.
She's like the Gale Weathers of this universe. I don't know why this universe has a Gale Weathers, but they do, and it's her. She's even chasing the story with her loyal and competent cameraman by her side. This is her. Rosalie is known on screen for constantly embarrassing Horace, though the guy does a pretty good job of doing that himself.
What happened to the cleaning crew?
Those ingrates. They just quit without any notice. How dare they ask for minimum wage?
Both of these characters actually epitomize the trait of pride. Both are focused on pushing their careers at the expense of anyone who gets in their way, and both are focused on how they look to the public.
Yes, folks, a hoax was played on all of us, causing a citywide panic and nearly destroying the impeccable reputation of this reporter, thanks to Professor Horace Bedetti.
My goodness, they misspelled my name again!
I guess you were right, Professor. Publicity is good.
One of my favorite moments with Rosalie Rivera is when she comes to do a story on the museum, but doesn't think there's any real story here. That is until she finds out that Horace has been making Cleo pick up the duties of the cleaning crew since they unexpectedly quit.
How dare they ask for minimum wage?
So like a lion to a wounded gazelle, Rivera pounces on the story of illegal child labor.
Yeah, I'm like one of those ancient Egyptian workers, but at least those guys built a pyramid. All I do is test and polish.
And how much are you paid?
Paid? What's that mean?
unpaid child labor. Oh, indentured servitude. Now that is a story.
She also pushes a rumor that the museum is haunted just because some guy in a fez said it was. She is great and has no journalistic integrity. She'd fit right in on Fox News.
Everybody agreed that—
As for the cartoon, I'd say it's a solid 4.5 pyramids out of 5. The action scenes aren't as bombastic as the Mummy series, or have as varied of a setting as that show, but I think it makes up for that with its more charming and charismatic cast. Also, we're ranking this as an ancient Egyptian cartoon, and there's a lot more ancient Egypt in this than there is in the Mummy. The dynamics between the characters feel more authentic too.
I'm going to die? From a sneeze? That's the first step into the underworld. The last thing I remembered 3,000 years ago was sneezing. Now look at me. I'm history.
The show also has the second best aesthetic of the cartoons we checked out, other than the bagginess under everyone's eyes. Everybody looks so sleepy, and the show feels like a true celebration of the culture.
Where are all the statues of me?
There aren't any. I told you this isn't the same Memphis. Where's your brain?
This isn't all smiles and mummy raps though. Did you know they're working on a remake for this series? It looks like it loses all the visual charm of the original. Let me know in the comments how the Tutenstein stands feel about this.
I deserve so much more.
If we don't, this feud is just going to continue and she sent us to Egypt.
So those were the forgotten Egyptian cartoons. Maybe they should have stayed in the tomb. We don't really see shows with a mummy or ancient Egyptian aesthetic anymore. At least not a full series dedicated to it. What killed the mummy craze? Was it Mummy Nanny? It was probably Mummy Nanny.
It's not my fault I turned out like this. I had a very difficult childhood.
Very difficult childhood. That's not in the script.
Or was it the reboot with Tom Cruise? Did that kill it? Someone needs to give me answers. This era of human history had a huge impact on our modern world through its interaction with Greek, Roman, French, and other societies it took L's from. Finding animation that celebrates that culture is awesome.
Some of that ancient Egyptian stuff is just made up. Don't believe everything you read.
We saw how multiple genres tackle the mystery of mummies in ancient Egypt, trying to light the spark of young historians through the medium of cartoons. That's cool, and hopefully, we can see other interpretations with modern animation. Maybe not like that, though. I'd love to hear which one of these cartoons seemed the most interesting to you. Give me all the details. Thank you guys for watching the video all the way through. I appreciate y'all big time. I love checking out nostalgic and strange cartoons that no one has any reason to watch. I'm looking at you, Mummy Nanny. Because they're weird and a part of animation history, for better or for worse.
The goal of this diversion is to feed the crocodiles, and you know how exciting that can be. You try to eat as many slaves as possible before the sun sets. The crocodile who eats the most wins. I've eaten 9,000 slaves.
It's my turn.
Watch out, sometimes the slaves are armed with pointy sticks.
So if you dig seeing stuff like this too, leave a like. It really helps. Check out some other strange cartoons we've done deep dives on, and hit me up in the comments with other animated series you'd like me to check out. Should we check out Mummy episodes of regular cartoons?
Yo, dead guys, your queen orders you to cool it. Now I'm your queen. Bow down to my queenliness.
I've been Witty G, and remember, be happy, be healthy, and be kind to someone, especially people wrapped in bandages.
The tiny man inside the spirit box won't threaten you anymore.
And before I forget, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is definitely an ancient Egyptian cartoon. That is canonical. That is how ancient Egyptian came to be, with card games. See ya.